Hi, everyone. Kumar Data Train here with Agile Meridian. Welcome to another episode of our Agile Shorts. I think we're up to episode 46.
Yes.
And if you remember, last time we met, Mike and I were online, and we were talking about the art of, I don't have a glass in front of me, the art of emptying your glass.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. Hey, you got a glass. There you go. There you go. The art of emptying a glass isn't, it's not actually literally emptying your glass. It's making room in your headspace for change, for transformation, for whatever that's sort of holding you back and preventing you from achieving your goals, whether as an individual or as a part of a team or a company. So today we're going to be talking about a technique, and the technique is. Our title of our show is "Don't Be Sorry, Be More Sorry."
Yes.
Right. And so this is a technique that we use at Agile Meridian that our very esteemed colleague, Coach Michael here, came up with. And so we thought we'd talk about this technique and what makes it so powerful. So Mike, what is SORI?
Well, it's really, I'm glad we're doing this right behind the empty your glass, because to your point, emptying your glass is about getting space in your head and on your calendar, right? Opening that up. So SORI is one of those techniques. At the end of last short, we said we don't have time to get into the techniques. This is the primary technique that I certainly use everywhere I go. And I know most of us at Agile Meridian have been using it as the primary way to really start to help folks not only empty their glass, but to start to set up a good change management activity. Anything if you're trying to transform into something, adopt into something, whatever descriptive term you want to use, it's really meant to be the tactical way to try to get those things started. Very repeatable. It's very simple. You can do it in face-to-face, which is obviously the best, but most things today, we can't do them face-to-face. So we have done them in distributed teams with all the great tools that are out there. So you can do it in several different ways. And it's the acronym stands for strengths, opportunities, risks, and impediments. And it's a great tool to start to allow folks to empty their glass. We use this a lot. And in fact, I use it exclusively with every DRI team that gets put together at any organization at any level. Senior leaders, operational teams, cross-functional teams of any sort, whether it be technology, manufacturing, healthcare, whatever. So that's what it stands for: strengths, opportunities, risks, and impediments. And I know, Chris, you and I have done activities like this in the past. And, we never really had a specific technique. We kind of leveraged these mindsets, though, in the past. And I know that you've leveraged this before with different groups.
Yep, it works very well. The good part about it is to empty your glass, you really have to start to think about things in different categories and think about what you're going to get rid of, right? You don't get rid of all of it. You get rid of some of it. So it gives you an opportunity as a team to go through and, figure out what's important and what's not. And it's a great exercise because a lot of folks get in the day-to-day, a lot of teams get into the day-to-day grind and forget about their strengths, what the opportunities are. They're so busy serving today, they can't solve for tomorrow. Yes. So it's really good to create some space that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I imagine that the strengths and opportunities portion of this is I've run this before. I don't know how you run it, Mike. You created it, so I'm running it more as a facilitator, and I love it because the strengths and opportunities section of this for me allows me and the group to figure out where they are now in terms of their strengths and what opportunities lie ahead. So in a way, it's acknowledging and leveraging their current strengths, and then looking to the future to see, what should the goals be? What should their outcomes be? And things like that. So it's more future focused while recognizing everyone in the room, their strengths that they have. Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on something very important. There are different groups in these sessions that are gaining different things. You've got the participants typically for us, I know we're working with a lot of directly responsible individuals or DRI structures. We're getting new teams together, cross-functional teams, when we're helping organizations move decision-making toward and move leadership towards the work, right? This is a great exercise because what's happening is these groups are typically getting together in this fashion for the very first time, or they've never really operated in a like an organized way in this as a group. Right. So there's a lot of unknowns. We think about the collaboration maturity model that we use. Visibility and participation are the two top things that you need to, or the two starting foundational points that you need. This helps to generate both. It's starting that journey for this group as a group down the road. And to your point, as a facilitator, if you're a coach or if you're an internal employee that you're going to run this with, we have a lot of internal employees now that run this with their teams. They run this around their organization. You're learning a lot. You're getting a kind of a head start to be able to really understand, where is this group starting from? What is their starting point? Where are their strengths and opportunities, right? What types of things do they see? And the other thing that Chris, I'm sure you've seen this before too, is people start to get ahas around the room. They start to go, oh, really? I didn't even know that was an opportunity. Is that really something we could do? Right. So, and the strengths, it's a little bit of this. We don't spend enough time doing this, and builds a lot of positive momentum, a lot of positive energy, and gets this team kind of looking at each other like, hey, this could be not only really productive, it might be fun to work together on this thing together.
You know, the scenario you just laid out, right? You got a new team starting up. They're unfamiliar with each other. It also, as you were talking, I couldn't help but think about the fact that the new team starting together, by having them go through this exercise there and talk about their strengths and opportunities, they have to start thinking about, you're putting them in a situation where they're thinking about the team and not themselves.
Yes.
Right. So you move that, you kind of elevate that from a me to a we, which I hadn't thought about it, you know, as effective as it's been. I hadn't thought about it in that fashion of using it that early.
So, yeah, it definitely is a great team building activity, and I've used it as such, like a to help a team come up with their charter, and the way I've run it is actually have them acknowledge each other's strengths. You know, it's not about me saying, oh, I'm a great multitasker, and so on and so forth, which I'm not. But it's about my teammates, my colleagues. Chris, you and Michael. Acknowledging something about me that I may not even see as a strength, right? And that really builds the sense of team. And when you're talking about teams, I'm assuming, Mike, that when you use this with our clients, I'm assuming you're talking about this is a group of people that weren't a team before. They represent different areas of an organizational structure, and they're being put together in this DRI sort of structure, DRI being directly responsible individual. So they're each responsible for some area in their organization. They're being put here together to represent different aspects of the team, the department, the company, right?
Yeah, that's where I think it can have the greatest lift. It is a valuable exercise for an existing team, especially one that might be struggling. This could be a way to kind of get over some hurdles, because it's not only going after the procedural and the work, the procedural issues, processes, tools, technology, the how things, the tactical things. It's really getting around a lot of the social things, the cultural things, and the interpersonal things. I've seen a lot of interpersonal 180s in a lot of these things with folks that even in new team structures where some of the individuals in the new team interacted prior to being in this team, but the interactions were not necessarily great. In fact, there was a lot of hesitancy when this team was, I've got a couple of teams in particular that told me after they were doing so well, about a year in, they said, we had a lot of concern about this. We looked around the room and these were all the folks that we thought were the troublemakers in the company, right? They were the folks that were the fire starters. They were always kind of stirring things up. I said, but yeah, but you put all that together in a structure where those folks have an environment where they can make change together in a team format and take all that knowledge and put it together. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets that really started. Neat. So
that's what, and I suppose this is something you can run multiple times as well, right? To kind of assess where the team is as they mature.
This is not a one and done. You're not creating a poster that you're going to put up or, hey, this is us. right? Go check it out. It's really meant to be a working document. When these exercises happen, a lot of times, and we'll get into this in a little bit because we'll talk about the other side of this. But you find that certain of the 4 categories are filled in very easily, and a couple of them are really difficult for a lot of folks.
That's right. So speaking of the other side of this, we've got the SO, the strengths, the opportunities, and then we have the risks and impediments. And at least in my experience running this, this can be a little confusing for people. Like, what is a risk? What is an impediment? And sometimes they kind of blend together in some ways, but it's still very valuable. And for me, this is, at least in the times that I've run it, is what's our current state? What's holding us back? Where do we see risks arising or already exist? And so while the strengths and opportunities are more future focused, the risk and impediments is current state and what can we peel off now in order to get us closer to our future state. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. The risks and impediments side are kind of really figuring out and looking at what are the things that are keeping us where we are today. And what are the things that we should be concerned about, both in terms of things that we're committed to and things that we probably should be committing to. Those are the opportunities that might be missed because of the things that we're dealing with today. So you kind of looking at that. It is a little more current state, although you use both sides back and forth together repeatedly. But I think, Chris, back to when you and I worked together in Florida. And, when we were doing a lot of the work there were a lot of risks out there that we dealt with and a lot of impediments. And people knew them, but we never really went through an exercise to do this back then.
Right.
To think about it. And I think back to, man, what could we have done if we'd have done something like this and we'd have put that on everybody's? Because we had a group of many multiple teams, 80 people, I think, in that entire kind of sub organization. If all of that knowledge had been put up and put together and been visible and collaboratable across all of the different sub teams, I think we could have had a lot quicker impact than what we did when we were there.
Absolutely. We don't all the, a lot of risk and impediments that are out there are known. I think you said that earlier, right? They're all known. It's not a secret. It's just, if it's not visible and they don't see it, we don't deal with it. And if you put it up there, then suddenly, if it's visible, all of a sudden now people have to do something with it, right? They can't, it's staring them in the face. And so it's important, I think, that we do that we get visible about it. And the other thing I would just suggest is it's important as well as from a risk standpoint, right? I view risk as being a little bit longer term, but what are we going to do about them, right? You don't just wait until, you just don't wait until you run into a risk. If you know it's there, you try to fix it before you get to it, right? Or to mitigate it somehow. And I think it's important to get that up and get that, again, visible so people can see it and consider it, right? And at least acknowledge that it's there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's many techniques to do that. There's a RAID log, there's the Roam method, and so on and so forth. But just, I think you're right. Getting it visible, that's the first step in acknowledging that these things exist and maybe what the current state of that risk is, who owns it, or is it being mitigated, or are we just accepting it, whatever it is, right? And having a conversation around that. Well, this sounds like a really great. Obviously, our experience is our experience. We've used it. I think most of all, Mike has been using it for years now, and we've started using this technique, and we facilitate a lot of our sessions using this, and it's very powerful, very useful. I think where it shows the most promise is anytime you're kicking off some kind of a change initiative.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. And it can be a measuring stick to success as well. Typically when these are run, people are very much, and we mentioned this earlier, they're very used to, they understand all the impediments. They're dealing with them every day. They could probably, that column gets filled, usually has more in it than any other column when you first get together with a new group, right? The second largest thing are the opportunities usually. So those things people are always looking at all the time, right? The things that folks typically don't get as much time or aren't culturally used to doing is looking at the risks and understanding risks of not only current risks to current deliverables. That's pretty well known, but what are future risks? What are some of the opportunity cost type risks that if we don't do this, or we don't do that,
or risks that you don't even see yet because you know, there's competition out there that you're not aware of,
or we're not even spending much time thinking about risk because we're so into the impediments.
That's right.
That it just consumes our whole day. And the
Yeah.
strength side, we're not used to doing this and patting ourselves in the back and recognizing what a true strength is and what the power of those strengths are. So the first time we do these things, they tend to have a lot of things in the opportunities because it's things that people really want to see that they haven't seen in a long time. Those impediments, because they deal with them every day. Those columns are very full. Typically, the strengths and the risk side don't have as much in it. But our ideal here is, as we move over time, because this is a living document, if we can start to reduce the things on the right side with the risks and impediments and start to increase the cards on the sides of strengths and opportunities, we are moving our organization towards its goals and our missions. We are making forward progress. We are making ourselves future-proof as an organization and as individuals and as a team. That's the transition. We want to see that movement happen over time. So we do want to go back and revisit it, but it can be very powerful for that as well. And that's not an immediate gain. One of the immediate gains is really this idea around emptying your glass and getting visibility and participation together for a new team to collaborate. The future opportunities are really about how do you see those things move from the right side to the left.
That's awesome. Chris, any parting thoughts before we close our Agile Short?
No, it's a great conversation. It made me go back and think about how we've run those events in the past, and I've got some ideas about some different things I can try. So I don't have anything else to add.
Great. Well, for the viewers out there, if you're interested in learning more about SORI and how to facilitate it, just reach out. Our contact information is in the show notes, and we'll be happy to help. It's a great technique. I think it can really help jumpstart any change initiative or a team charter type session. You know, whatever it might be. If you think about a team chartering session, that is in a way a change initiative because you're putting a bunch of people that don't know each other or have worked together in a team, but it really worked as individuals, and you're trying to sort of figure out, okay, what binds them, what connects them, and how can you make this team greater than the sum of its parts. So SORI seems like a great way to do that. And with that, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye.